Hello, so today we are taking a look at the SF50 Vision Jet, the Cirrus Vision Jet in Microsoft Flight Simulator. We're here on the ground at Wycombe Airfield, and as you can see from the promo reel from starting the flight in Flight Simulator, it's absolutely wonderfully modelled. The quality of the rendering is absolutely fantastic. Now, if you're looking at this plane thing, I've seen this somewhere before. If you've ever owned X-Plane has had the Vision Jet in it for years, but I think it's safe to say this version completely blows the X-Plane one out of the water, but that's only to be expected because this is a payware version. It's not a freebie that came with the sim. So let's go and jump inside the airplane, and when you get inside the airplane you see straight away the quality of modelling extends to inside the aircraft too. It's really nicely done. So I've noticed a bit of a bug which made me laugh. Obviously we have no business being inside here with the covers on. It makes no sense. How did we get in with the covers still on? So when you go and open the door, the covers disappear because obviously they'd rip the covers. But it's really nice to see these animations working as nicely as they do anyway. So obviously to close the door we can go and click back on that handle and we'll see the reverse animation. It's just really nice to see these animations done so well, I think. Okay, so yeah, the modelling continues throughout. It's just fantastic wherever you look, to be honest. So if we go and jump back into the front seat, how do we actually get this thing started up? So let's go and have a look. We'll go and turn on batteries 2 and 1, which turns on the left and right respective sides of the avionics. So you've got primary flight display, secondary flight or multi-function display, and you've got 3 touch screens in front of you, which are very intuitive, very obvious to use. I've been digging around a little bit to see how to start the aircraft up. The most obvious thing you see when you first fire it up is this initialization page on the center screen. So if we go and work our way down it, so database status, it's just basically going to go and see if we've got Navigraph available, and if we have, that's great. If we come back out, then we get a tick against it. System tests, so you can do the pre-flight tests in an automated manner. So it's doing an engine test, we can clear that enunciation. It's now doing the stall warning test. And again, we can just clear that, and we've done the tests. Okay, so if we come back out of here, there's a tick against that then. If we could do the fuel, we can sync it with the fuel on block, and then come down, and we look at the weight and balance. Again, you could obviously influence this if you wanted to, so we could zero out, remove weight, for example, to get rid of the co-pilot if we haven't got a co-pilot. And we can come back, and we can then set our flight plan. So we'll go from EGTB, which is Booker, which is where we're on the ground at, enter, and we'll go to Oxford, which would be EGTK. We're not actually going to do the flight today, we're just having a little look at how this works. So very straightforward. It's the same as the Garmin 3000 basically. So we come back out. It may actually be the 3000 or a modified version of it. We can then accept our initialization. So that's kind of got the basics ready inside the aircraft. You'll notice there's various things, so you get cautions pop up on the touchscreens, and that obviously corresponds with the probe heat warning up here. So if we go and turn that probe heat off, you can see the warning goes away, which is good. You can configure this map quite heavily. So if we go and look, so this is the MFD, which corresponds with this screen. PFD is this screen. If we go and look in the map settings, we can turn the terrain on and off. So we could say absolute or off and just get the blank screen. We can have it either north oriented or heading up, for example, or track up even. So we'll say north up just for our purposes today. We can use the knob at the bottom corner to zoom in on our track, and then we can come back out of here. You will notice on the primary flight display it's not showing the typical view of the textured ground on the synthetic display of what's in front of us. We can influence that as well. So if we come into PFD settings, you can see there's SVT terrain down here. If we enable that, we get the texture showing. If we disable it, then it goes away and we just get a simple horizon line. I actually quite like this. I'd rather look out the window to see what's going on. Obviously in bad visibility it's wonderful to have that facility. And you get the usual options around, you know, displaying wind and things like that. Okay, so let's come back out of there. How do we get the engine started then? So before we get the engine started, I'm just going to make a point that something I noticed that threw me for a few moments. If you've got the fuel mixture, or fuel condition should I say, mapped to a lever on your controller, make sure it's pushed forwards, because although it doesn't appear in the cockpit, it does appear that the axis still actually affects the aircraft. So if you've got the mixture at a cut-off setting at the back of your lever, then you won't be able to start the engines in this. It will only get to like 20% of spinning the engines electrically, and there'll be no fuel introduced. Okay, so what do? We go and come over here. If we move the yoke out of the way, this is the simplest engine start of anything I've ever seen, I think. You turn the engine knob to run and you hit the start button, and the engine bursts into life and we can hear it happening. Ooh, I forgot to show you something there. And it appears this has done it for us. Well, that was a shame. In the VAMS, Virtual Aircraft Management System, you've got chocks, covers, protectors. That removes all of the stuff from around the outside of the aircraft. You can see there was some automated stuff there, where as soon as we started the engines, it removed those covers. So you can't set fire to the covers or anything like that, unfortunately. So there is some idiot proofing built into the system. So you can't go flying around with the covers on and the engine covers on. Okay, so that was it. That started the engine. Obviously, to generate some electricity, if we go and have a look over here, if we go then and set the generators 1 and 2 to on, you can see the voltages kick in. We can turn on the oxygen system, because we can fly to 30,000 feet in this aircraft, and we can turn on the bleed air as well. And I think that's pretty much it. So we've got, obviously, there's a flap lever down here. There's the autopilot controls, which are very straightforward. We'll have a play with that while we're flying along. We can use an auto throttle, which is really lovely. So we can set it either manually or using the flight management system. So when we program our route, we could put target speeds in, or you may be following a SID or a star, for example, which may dictate the speeds. Yeah, it's very, very straightforward. Oh, this is quite nice. The headsets you'll see out here, if you go into that virtual aircraft management system, go to the Bose page, and you can put the headphones on. Yeah, and you can actually put noise cancelling on the headphones. So if you're fed up with the drone of the engines, you can go and turn noise cancelling on. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to taxi already. So we'll go and turn some lights on, strobes and landing lights on. We will come off the parking brake, ease the throttles forwards, centre our view up, and we're going to roll out towards runway 22 at Booker. It's funny, even though this video is only going to be a few minutes just to have a quick look at this aeroplane, I think this is about the 6th time I've recorded it. Everything that could have happened today. I had a few minutes off work to do this earlier, and I just gave up. So I've ended up waiting for the end of the day to record it. It's just been an absolute comedy. There's been knocks on the door, people arriving back into the house, people asking me questions, things gone wrong with the computer itself. It's just everything that could have happened. Anyway, here we go, runway 24. So let's go and set ourselves a target altitude for our flight. So we'll roll this round. We can see the target altitude changing up here, so 2,500 feet. We'll click the center of the heading knob, which moves it into the middle of here. Before we even switch the autopilot on, we can configure the modes. So we'll go for heading mode of the direction we're going to be flying. We'll go for vertical speed mode, and we can use the roller here to set it. So we'll say we'll climb at, we're just watching these numbers change, say 2,000 feet a minute. Okay, Can we set the auto throttle while we're still on the ground? I very much doubt it, so I'm not even going to try. Okay. Slide the throttle through to full. When we get to full, it goes to takeoff thrust. So it's a FARDEC throttle system, it's electronic. So we're going to wait until the aircraft gets to about 90 knots, which we'll use most of the runway here at Wycombe, and then rotate. So easing back on the stick. Nose comes up. It's quite heavy to begin with, obviously, as we're going quite slowly. And then wait for it to accelerate a little bit, and then flaps up as well. Bit of stick back pressure to maintain the nose up attitude. We can trim to hold the nose up. Sort of at 15 degrees or so of pitch on the climb out, and we can go and turn the autopilot on, which is obviously going to, autopilot is on, it's going back for the heading we requested. It's going for the 2000 feet a minute, so you can see that's happening there. And then let's go and try this out then. So if we go and turn on the auto throttle with manual mode, you get a speed here. It's preset at 150. Let's go and zoom out slightly and increase that. So we want to get this in view and this. So if we go for 180 knots, for example, you can see that happening. It's really nice, isn't it? How lazy does this make you, having auto throttle on an aircraft of this size? It's really stunning. Just press B to calibrate the altimeter. I should have done on the ground, really. Okay, so for our purposes today, we're just going to have a little play. We'll spin the plane round to 60 degrees. So I'm just moving the heading bug with the heading knob. Obviously it has got nav mode, it's got lateral navigation mode, it's got VNav. So it's got all of the toys in a very small jet aircraft, and it spoils you. It really does. So you can see now in the air, you get a proper look at this thing. How well modelled is it? It's stunning, isn't it? Very, very good. I have been hugely impressed with this. Okay, so you can see there's the airfield we took off from. We're just going to come down the other side of the airfield, and then we'll scoot back in and do a landing. It almost makes flying too easy, doesn't it? Obviously you can do all the radio navigation, so you can change over to the nav source to the nav radios at the flick of or the press of a button. It's not a problem. Over here, this defaults on the right hand screen to do the frequencies, but you can do them on either of these two screens, or this one as well. Look, you can go to navcom or PFD. This one does PFD, MFD or navcom. It's very, very straightforward. Okay, so we just fly back past the airfield. Let's have a look at visibility out of the cockpit. As you can see, it's got very, very good visibility out of the cockpit. While we're flying, let's go and, now we're down this end of the airfield, let's go and turn the autopilot back off. And we'll turn the auto throttle off as well. Is that a separate system? Good to know, wouldn't it? Yeah, I have full control over that now. It's a shame there's no light there. That would be really handy, because this does move on its own if it's on automatic. Anyway, so what I wanted to do very briefly is to do a stall test just to see how it behaves. So we'll pull it up into a climb, we'll cut the throttle to idle, 30-degree climb.
Stop.
So you get a stick shake.
Stop.
And it shouts stall at you. Obviously the stall speed is actually very low, so you can get away with a lot with it. So let's turn back towards the airfield. You see it's very slippery through the air. You haven't got spoilers either, so you need to be aware of that. We'll try some side slips on the way back to the airfield as well, just to see how it behaves in side slip. The airfield is somewhere over there. There it is. Right. So we've got plenty of time. So let's keep an eye on this and see if we go to side slip. In side slip we hardly have to give it any aileron to counter the rudder. Whether that's a feature of it being a V-tail, I'm not sure. Yeah, it doesn't roll very much in response to the tail. It's very, very neutral. The airfield over here somewhere. There it is. Okay, so gear down. Let's see what the animation's like of the gear. Cool, isn't it? And flaps down. Go for full flaps. What do they look like? They're quite thick flaps, aren't they? Gotta keep an eye on the speed, make sure we don't stall it. It's the runway. We'll sit up in the seat so we can see where we're going. Okay, so on the ribbon here you do get a stall limit showing up, which is handy. That's interesting. Something weird going on with the texture loading in here. Never seen that before in this area. There's obviously something odd going on with the servers today. And it's starting to stutter, which it never normally does. It's stuttering really badly, actually. Skim the trees. Yeah, that's That's really badly affected the frame rate, hasn't it? So obviously there's no reversers on this, it's only a small single engine jet. Very minimal engineering going on. So we can stay on the tarmac though. Or we can almost stay on the tarmac to turn around. The turning circle isn't that fantastic. So onto the grass slightly. Hopefully it's not too muddy today. So there you go though, there's the Vision Jet. I really, really like it. So we'll just roll back in towards the airfield. Obviously we can go and turn off some of those lights on the way back in, so we don't need the landing lights on anymore, don't need the strobes on anymore. I wonder what suddenly affected the frame rate. Obviously there's a server issue going on because it wasn't loading scenery in, was it? You could see the tiles going wrong on the ground on approach. Okay, so I think as long as you keep it slow, you actually can manoeuvre quite easily. Let's go for 2.7 over here. Okay, parking brake on. And as I said, to shut the engine off, all you have to do is click the button here and it will shut itself down. Or you can pull the mixture if you've got a mixture, and that will do the same trick. So you can turn this to off, and then it's just the reverse of what you did earlier really. So generator's off, battery's off. Obviously if I turn the batteries off we'll lose the avionics. But yeah, it's very, very straightforward and simple to operate. I'm massively impressed with it. So there you go. Cirrus Vision Jet in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's about £20, about $25. It's very, very good. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, otherwise I'm just going to be waffling on. I'll see you again soon.